for this program, you are all mentees, but this is how to be in the opposite role, how to be a good mentor. And the mentoring in some cases could be peers, but in most cases, we're talking about if you are a junior professor, we're talking about graduate students and postdocs and undergrads. So I'm gonna go through some of the characteristics of good mentors. So a lot of this is based on research of individuals who were very successful junior faculty, and they asked them about what type of mentoring they were getting. And these seem to be the stuff I'm gonna go through are some of the characteristics of good mentors. Again, feel free to ask any questions at any point in time. It'll be very boring if it's only me talking, okay? So, number one rule, meet people where they are. Um, that's really important. I'm gonna give you an example. I was a young graduate student. I was probably in a doctoral program, probably 22 or 23. And there was another graduate student who was 30, maybe 32. And again, we're both starting first, second year. And we were in a meeting together, and the professor said, um, I'm gonna give you different advice because you're at different stages. So for me, that's 22. I wasn't married, didn't have any kids, didn't have any obligations, just finished school, which means I could sort of take my time a little bit and get academic maturity. For the older guy, again, he was a friend of mine, but for the older guy, he knew what he wanted to do. He was already a professor at a junior college. His goal was to get his PhD and to go back and teach at the junior college. So the goal for him was for him to get out of the program as soon as possible. And he did get out pretty quickly, and he finished his PhD remotely at where he was teaching junior college. Excuse me. So the bottom line I'm trying to say is you had to treat people differently. Same way you had to appreciate these types of individual differences when you mentor. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or to ask me. A good mentor encourages multiple mentors. Not everybody is strong in everything. Even if you consider yourself strong in everything, people have different viewpoints. So a really good mentor encourages multiple mentors. If you look at the bottom, this is a serious red flag if a person indicates that they should be the sole mentor. That don't listen to anybody but listen to me. That is a clear in today's world almost authoritarian type of viewpoint. That only one person has all the knowledge. That is a serious red flag. As a mentor, know your strengths and weaknesses. Know who you're really good at in terms of mentoring. I mentor junior professors. I mentor postdocs. I mentor associate professors. I feel like I'm pretty good at that. I don't think I'm a good mentor of undergrads, and I think I'm an okay mentor to master students. I think I'm pretty good in terms of research at some level, but I don't think I'm the greatest mentor in terms of teaching. Again, each person should know where they think they're good at, where they think they're bad at, or average, and then you sort of tell your mentee, hey, you should go see such and such. Their research may not be that strong, but they are a great teacher. So things like that. You want to foster collaboration when it's appropriate, but again, only when it's appropriate. Even if you have, say, a student who says, I really want you to be on this paper, you may say, I'll help, but I may not want to be a co-author. But there may be a point where you say, yeah, this paper will not get published unless I put the time in with it. So again, you never want to take advantage of your mentee, but the same way you want to be able to justifiably help your mentee. Any questions so far? You want to help with networking. This is both formal and informal. So what I mean by this, I don't attend conferences as much as I did in the past. Um, but if I'm with a mentee at a conference, then I would say, hang out with me for a few hours and say we would go and we would network. Essentially, I would say, let's just sit here, we'll talk. And as people come up, I'll say, hey, Shauna, come here. Let me introduce you to such and such. Okay. Or we would go to various receptions. But my goal really is to introduce my mentee. Okay. And again, that's how you sort of do it informally. Formally, it may be, hey, uh, Joe, just random names. Uh, I'm working with this guy named Juan. Juan does child development work. I'm gonna email Juan and say, hey, if you have a little bit of time, could you meet with Joe? Or I may do it another way. I may say, I'm really busy. Email Juan. This is his email address, and say that Robert Taylor asked you to say hello. Okay, something like that. So again, sort of the formal way of doing it. There's a big one. You want to give positive and negative feedback. Most people are afraid to give negative feedback. Sometimes the negative feedback it can really hurt the mentee, but in many cases they really need it. That's the reason why you're giving them negative feedback. If you're only giving positive feedback all the time, you're not helping the person. So I was looking for a good term for this, which is what I call spontaneous or proximity mentoring. And in many ways, one could argue this is sort of the best way or some of the best types of mentoring. And what I mean by this is you're sitting, my mentee's sitting in my office, and I'm working on a tenure letter. Okay. Now, this is a doctoral student. They haven't thought about tenure, much less writing a tenure letter. But I'll say, hey, take a look at this. Okay. And, just look at my screen really quickly. Um, I, generally won't have enough information so you can figure out who the person is. But this is the way you would do a tenure letter. So you have an idea of what they look like. And again, as we know in terms of all life, the more you experience it, the easier it is once you get there. Okay. And so same with just a little bit about everything in terms of that's sort of a spontaneous. Uh, and the more proximate you are to that individual, the more types of spontaneity may happen. So I have a lot of mentees that their cubicles are right outside of my office, and I may say, "Oh yeah, come on in," you know. Let me show you this, and then we'll start talking. Or I may be leaving for the day, and then we start a conversation. And I may think it may go 5 minutes, but it may go 20 minutes, it may go an hour. Sometimes I get in trouble with my family when they lasted over an hour. But again, those types of mentoring activities, especially for the mentees, is really valuable. And I'm saying that as a person, both as a mentor and experiencing that with James Jackson and other people myself. Another really important thing as we're starting to wind down a little bit is remember bad advice. So, as a mentor, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Okay. You're going to give some bad advice, and you're going to be mentoring at least 30, 40 years in your career. And it's really important for you to remember the bad advice so you learn from it. If you always think everything you say is perfect, then obviously that's a problem. Recognize when you like, wow, I really blew that. And I'm going to make sure that I don't say things like that again in the future. Again, pretty basic, but being culturally sensitive and willing to learn. And if see these characteristics, I'm not spending time on these because this is what you get with any mentoring workshop. These are the basics, you know. Now, again, you meet people where they are. Some people want to meet once a month. Others are like, no, I'm good with once every 6 months, you know. For me, my goal is if somebody gets in touch with me and says, hey, I have a problem, I need to meet, then my goal is to try to meet with them that day, okay, if not the next day. But, you know, for some people really need to meet regularly, that's fine. Some people are really productive, so they don't need setting goals. Um, Obviously, if you're at that same department, navigating that is really critical. Or let's assume um, that I am a psychiatrist and you want to get involved with the American Psychiatric Association, and I have held offices there, then I may help you navigating that as an example. Again, these are pretty basic, which is why I just put these in one slide. Showing genuine concern, be competent and willing to share knowledge, and be honest and straightforward. And this is probably the biggest point is especially if you have a mentee that you worked really closely with, you publish with, you had to let them grow. And if they decide, you know, I don't want to work with you anymore, or it sort of slows down, you can't take it personally. You have to let people grow. You have to let people do their, for lack of a better term, do their own thing. So I'm gonna stop my share and we can get started general conversation.